Good afternoon. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuchsa. I do the live interview series with entrepreneurs, people who have started a business, who are running a business inside of a business, people that have just seen some opportunity or decided to really chase something that they felt really strongly and passionate about. And I've met so many people doing this series, both people that I knew through my previous business career and that I've met through my now current consulting and coaching career. But more importantly, I've met a lot of really interesting people through people that I've interviewed. And so today I want to introduce you to a lady that just has a really cool, amazing passion. And the things that she's developed it into are just really incredible. And I want to share her with you because she is the true epitome of loving something and figuring out how to make money with it. So today I want to introduce you to Kristi. Kristi, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, Kristi, I want you to tell everybody about you first. Let's learn, who is Kristi? What are you about? Where did you come from? And what are you doing right now? What did you turn into your love?
Well, I grew up in Colorado, and the neighborhood I grew up in, every kid had a horse. We were in a unique situation where we all had a horse in our backyard, and we played on our horses. We played everything on our horses. And so I developed a passion for the horses when I was very, very young. But I was also a bit of a nerd and loved school and loved math and loved science. And I went to Colorado School of Mines, got an engineering degree. And I ended up working at Prudhoe Bay in North Alaska in the oil field.
Wow.
Back when I was the second female engineer in the field.
Wow.
And I took a horse with me to Alaska, and my passion for horses just got stronger and deeper. And so I decided at one point that I really wanted to try to compete at a level that was not going to happen in Alaska. So I decided that I needed to pick one or the other, and I chose the horses and moved back down to the lower 48, as we called it up there, and built a horse farm in Colorado with my husband and started getting hard, just seriously only doing the horses, training and teaching. Became a judge. I'm now an international dressage judge and an international para dressage judge, which is the para stands for parallel. It's for the disabled riders.
Okay.
And they also have their own Olympics called the Paralympics. So I've gotten very heavily involved in the judging, and I love to teach. It's one of my passions. It's fun to share my knowledge with others. And so since I've been in Washington for the last 3 years, I've developed a day clinic system that just kind of evolved on its own. I didn't really see it coming, but it's become a very popular program. I go to about 14 different barns in the area for the day, and I work with the riders, with their trainers, and then we develop, some new ideas or different approaches to what they're doing and move to the next step. And then I come back a month to 6 weeks later, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. I've loved getting to see. I'm working with about 100 people in the area. It's really been fun. But 2020 definitely for everybody. Like, how do you define it? I don't know that there is a definition, but I ended up spending a lot of time teaching virtual riding lessons because a lot of the clinics I had around the country got canceled.
Sure.
And so I've taught virtually for several years, but this year, suddenly I was teaching 3 or 4 days a week on the computer.
Wow.
And I was I did some seminars online and spent a lot of time in meetings in Zoom. I learned Zoom really well this year, and even went to a convention by Zoom. And during all that, it became apparent to me that our sport has not been using the online platform as a tool for education nearly enough. And I decided to develop an academy. It's called Y Dressage Academy, and launched my first course in January. And that is why conformation and movement matter when buying, breeding, or training a dressage horse.
Wow.
And I have 96 people participating right now. One in Mexico, one in Canada, and one in Spain, which is exciting. She does all her homework in English and Spanish, which has been fun for me because I get to learn more too from her. So it's really been a fun avenue to help people even more, and they can do it from at home whenever it works for them. And it's been a learning experience for me to learn how to teach via computer when you don't have the audience right there with you and you can't read them to see if you're getting through to them. But the good news is, after the first module was launched, I started getting good feedback that people were really enjoying it and learning from it. So apparently I picked a good approach to do it with, but that was a challenge to really think through, after having done it in person for so many years, to think through, okay, how do you do it on a computer when you're not there with them to interact? So it's been a fun project, and a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I'm not the best with computers, but I'm getting better, learning a lot. And I just have the horse is an amazing animal, and our sport dressage is really designed towards making the communication with the animal as subtle as possible, to where you get to the point where if you think it, the horse will do it.
Wow.
And it's pretty magical, and I love being able to share it with others.
Wow. The story in itself, and this is, for all of you guys out there listening, this is exactly why I wanted to share this lady with you. When we talk about, just the process that you've gone through in your life and things that have changed. You're a person that went to school for engineering. You were working in Alaska on pipeline stuff and decided, because your passion was the horses, that this is where you really wanted to be, and literally took the reins and made that happen for yourself. Super amazing. You took the passion of horses and turned it into a money-making business, a way to change your life. So it's just truly amazing. But I've been writing a lot of notes, and I wanted to go back and ask you a couple of things. First of all, not being a horse person. And I know when you and I were first introduced, the person who introduced us said, does this sound like something that, you could talk about on your interviews? And I'm like, sure. But we have to educate everyone out there who's not a horse person. So talk for a second about dressage. What does that even mean?
Dressage is one of the 3 Olympic equine disciplines. There's actually 3 different disciplines that are equestrian that are included in the Olympics.
Okay.
And dressage is one of the 3. The definition of dressage is the training of the horse. It goes all the way back to the oldest book they can find was written by Xenophon 300 years before Christ. And basically the dressage was originated as training the horses for battle. And all of the movements we do today in the competition arena were all originally designed as battle movements.
Wow.
So it has a very fascinating history to it, which is it has a lot of tradition. And it was part of military until probably the 70s, really.
Very interesting.
If you've heard of the Spanish riding school in Vienna with the Lipizzaner stallions, and that's a very high level of dressage.
Okay.
And it's still very military associated.
Okay.
But it's basically the training of the horse. And in the sport, you learn to use your aids to the point where if you get good enough and subtle enough, you can think something and the horse will do it. And it's magic when that happens. It's really magic because they're amazing animals to work with.
And so the other thing, not being a horse person, is when you're talking about doing these things, and this is more curiosity than anything else, but just trying to understand. So when someone has a horse that they're doing this with, you're training the person to train their horse, and that horse is like that is their equipment. That's their person. They're always going to be with that horse. It's not like, oh, we're going to go use somebody else's horse today, or, trying different vehicles out, if you will. I mean, that horse is part of the package. You and that horse are always together.
There are some situations where people, if they can't afford to have their own horse, they'll use a lesson horse. But I mean, a good way to associate it would be either with ballroom dancing or figure skating with pairs or dancers,
Gotcha.
where you have a partner.
Okay.
The trick with the horse is it's a little harder to communicate with them because they don't speak English
Yeah.
or German or whatever other language. So you learn to communicate with them with your body language.
Gotcha.
And so it is kind of similar to those in types of the relationship that you have with your partner. It is very much a partnership.
Gotcha. That's a great analogy and makes it much easier to follow for sure. That's really cool. So let's talk more. Let's go back to, okay, so you left engineering. You decided to have a horse farm with your husband in Colorado. And at some point you say, all right, well, I'm going to start teaching, training people, and I'm going to start doing classes, and I'm creating a business here. So obviously that takes some things that you aren't quite necessarily prepared for. Computers, which we had a little laugh about, which you should share. But I mean, a lot of pieces about that. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that's obviously part of this puzzle is you got to put together some of those mechanics as well.
One of the things that was tricky for me was having worked in the oil field as an engineer. Everything that we did in the field, it had to happen quickly. And if something went wrong, solutions had to be come up with and mitigated very quickly.
Okay.
And you didn't have to beat around the bush to be polite.
Yeah.
And when I came into the horse industry, in our country, the majority of the riders are women. And I had worked in an industry that the majority of which were men, and we do communicate a little bit differently. And so it was a big learning experience for me to learn how to come back around and not be so direct and so to the point that that's how engineers think.
Yeah.
And so I had to work on that. I had to work on that hard because I throughout college and my engineering career, everything was very, very direct.
Yeah.
But I will say my engineering has been incredibly helpful to me because it's helped me understand the biomechanics of both the horse and the rider more so than I think I would understand without that background.
Mm-hmm.
And that has enabled me to be able to look at the situation from a biomechanics point of view instead of an emotional point of view, which oftentimes arises when we're riding horses. And I think that's made me a better trainer, a better teacher, and a better judge because I do understand the biomechanics so well.
Mm-hmm.
So my engineering has served me well, even in this world, even though I'm not directly being an engineer. I use it all the time in figuring out how to solve problems and take riders to the next step and help them work on if they have a position problem and that kind of thing.
Very interesting. Wow, that's really interesting. So when you okay, so you opened a horse farm and you said, okay, well, I'm going to start, training people in this area. And how do you take that leap? I mean, obviously you did some networking in your industry, and this is how you started getting involved and getting people there. But, one of the things when you start a business is how you're going to get business. Well, then you jumped to judging. And talk about that for a minute, because that's a big step.
Yeah, I started the first judges education program that I went to because a friend of mine who is now one of the top judges in our country, she's slated to judge the Tokyo Olympics.
Wow.
She's a friend of mine and been a mentor of mine most of my career. And she said, hey, we need one more person in this judges course. Why don't you do it? And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I like to learn. Sure. And now 20 years later, I'm an international judge, and I became a sport horse judge, which is related to judging the breeding stock and the young horses. And then I also, in 2012, became a para dressage judge, which is the dressage for the disabled riders, which has been really it's very dear to my heart that I get to be involved with that. The riders, no matter what their disability is, they never quit. They never give up. they just keep on going. And I mean, it's been incredible to be a part of that.
Wonderful.
And to experience how much those riders can do with their horses, despite their disability. Sometimes I think their disability makes them more able in some ways, because they really do take it seriously and really do give it their all the time. And they don't ever, not to say they don't ever, but they don't let frustrations of, oh, I'm just having a bad day, get in the way, because they get what a bad day can really be.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's really profound. Very interesting too, because I think had you not pursued this and got into the judging area, you might not have had those experiences. So really cool. One of the things I wanted to talk about with you was challenges. So like, what are some of the things that as a business owner now and having all these experiences, you're following your passion, you're doing what you love, because being with horses and helping people understand them and be better at that is clearly what you love. And you've shared that with us. Talk to us about some challenges. I mean, you're opening a business. You worked for someone else before as an engineer. Now you've got all these things going on. So talk to us a little bit about that. That there's some obviously some processes there that you might not have been prepared for.
It's an interesting industry, because everybody is really good friends
Mm-hmm.
until there's a business issue that then the friendship gets in the way. So
Mm-hmm.
it has a tricky, slippery slope sometimes. Social media has been an interesting introduction to it. There was no social media when I started.
Sure.
So it really was word of mouth where you got known. The judging definitely expanded my career as a trainer also, because people in
Sure.
other parts of the country would, when I would judge, then they would be interested in me coming in and clinicking. Now I get exposure all over the world because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
I do try during COVID, especially. I got very consistent about trying to go online and give some easy training tips to people.
Mm-hmm.
I dressed up in horse costumes several times to bring a little humor to it.
I love it. I love it.
I drove a grocery cart around for 5 minutes, and there's been 35,000 people that have watched that video. I'm like, really? I didn't expect that. I
Stuff.
just
I love it.
tried to bring a little levity into the education, and yet still give people an easy tip, that they can go out, and it's pretty amazing to next morning wake up with your inbox with 8 or 10 messages of people saying, oh my God, I tried it and it helped, and thank you
Oh,
so much,
that's
and it was so
fantastic.
easy. And um, that's been, I have mixed emotions about social media, in terms of
Yeah.
sometimes it goes a little awry. But
Yeah.
I think if you use it well and in a positive format, I've been able to help people in ways
Mhm.
that I otherwise would never even begin to be able to help them.
Right.
Um,
For sure.
one of my videos I did about learning to sit the trot better using a yoga ball, and a little nine, I think she's 7 or 8, in back east, was watching it with her grandmother, and she made her grandmother go out and get both of them a yoga ball so they could work on their sitting trot together.
Oh,
And then she sent me a video of her
oh,
learning to do
how
the video.
cool.
I mean, she's my favorite student now, of course.
Yeah.
But
How cool is that?
it is. I mean, it's so, as I've learned to use social media in a positive way
Mhm.
and not have it be, I have to admit, a little over a year ago, I was thinking about just getting entirely off of it because there
Mhm.
was so much negativity.
Sure.
And then one day I went, no, I'm going the other way. I'm taking it the other way. And it's been really fun to be able to help people and to get messages from people. Oh my God, I love your videos, and thank you so much for the help. And
Ah,
it's been great to be able and I've met people from all over the world that way. I do get to meet people all over the world through my judging, but
nice.
I'm meeting even more people. I mean, some of them I only know on the internet, but
Sure.
there's people I've met on the internet that I feel very, very close to. So,
So, I love that you're sharing that because, I mean, everybody has a love-hate relationship with social media for many reasons. And if you do any kind of business that, you want to reach globally people, then obviously it's a no-brainer that you have to embrace it at some level, And so I love that. And I love how you're sharing that because, one of the things I do for a living is work with people on creating content and getting it out there because people can't talk to you or work with you unless they know what you know. And once you start helping people understand the things that you know, then of course they're going to keep asking you questions. And, that's how the snowball starts. But one of the things I love is that you're talking about how you've adapted this year to the different things that you've had to do, social media, doing online virtual classes, learning the computer and what you needed to do. So talk to us a little bit about that, because one of the things I talked about today globally in my group was exactly that, like embracing change and stop being afraid of it, because there's opportunity in it. It may not be always as obvious right in front of you, but keep working through it and look what it's brought you and look how much you've done. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I think it's really pivotal today as people are still trying to figure out, what do I do next? How do I deal with all of these things around me? Because even if God forbid we all, or not God forbid, but in a perfect world, we all get the shot, everybody's magically better, it's all gone, and boom, we're going to go back to normal. We're not. It's not going to happen that way. So talk to us about how you embrace that change and what you have found through that, because I think that's really powerful today between the social media and learning how to do stuff on your computer.
I think it's important for people. I mean, I oftentimes hear people say, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. There never has been a normal. I mean, we evolve with everything that happens throughout history. That we become it's a new day. We're not going back to there. I don't think that really, as people, we would want to look to go back anyway. I mean, this has been tragic times, and there have been really sorrowful things that have occurred. Yeah. But I think we have to learn from it and move forward from it. And the things that we have been forced to learn, I was forced to get a better relationship with computers. We've had somewhat of a hate, not much love, more hate relationship. Most of my, I don't know why, but computers kind of see me coming and they like to make my day complicated. But I've learned to embrace them a bit more and go, okay, figure it out instead of just get frustrated by it. Mm-hmm. And this new course that I launched this year, when I first launched it, I did have a computer person do the launch page for me, the landing page, but I had in my mind that she would download all of my material for me. I was not planning on doing any of the computer part. I was going to put together my material, just like I was going to go do a live presentation. Then I was going to hand it to her and go, okay, how about it? And then this platform that I'm using, I thought, well, I should at least learn a little bit about it. And it's been so user friendly that I've actually ended up doing all of the downloading and everything that's gone on in the course itself. And I'm learning things that if you'd have told me 6 months ago I was going to be doing this stuff, I would have been going, nope. And now I'm really glad that I am, because I don't walk up to a computer with the intimidation I used to. Yeah. Now I walk up to it and go, okay, I can figure this out. Now, granted, the first video lesson I downloaded that took 18 hours, I was a little stressed. So computers still have their way of, I do every once in a while wish I could just go like this for an hour or two and there was nothing you could do about it, like computers do, and find out. Why do they get to do that and we don't?
That is so true. Oh my God, that's so true.
But I actually am glad that because I kind of feel like I've always kind of had this intimidation by computers of almost like a abusive relationship kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And now I'm starting to realize that it's just a tool and I just have to learn to use the tool better. Yeah. And to be able to teach students, I teach writing lessons to people in other parts of the country. I've been able to do a few seminars I'm doing one Friday night that they normally have an in-person convention and they're doing it virtually. So they have me doing a seminar for them Friday night. And so, and I think that we can embrace that going forward too. I think it's something that can help more people get to be included in things, because like conventions, you have to buy an airplane ticket and hotel room, and some people are a little bit nervous about flying, and it may take some time for them to get unnervous, and it's expensive to travel. And so with all of these internet modalities that we have now, like we're chatting right now, like we're in the same room.
You would know.
I've done 2 of these with friends of mine, one of which was in England, and we got to have a long chat, and now we can continue to do that. And we wouldn't have done it before we were forced to do it. I don't think we would have done it. So
I totally agree with you there. That's for sure. That's one thing for sure. One very positive COVID's brought to us all is we've connected with people that aren't in our backyard anymore all the time, a lot more frequently, and seeing real time what's going on. And it's certainly that's been a blessing for sure.
I would have never met you. I mean,
yeah,
we would have
100%.
connected.
Yeah, 100%. And I wouldn't be able to share your magical story, which is so amazing. So as we wind up, I mean, your information and your honesty and your energy has been so invaluable, and I truly appreciate that. Share with us your go-to piece of advice when somebody runs up against a brick wall. I mean, entrepreneurs do it all the time. Obviously, you dealt with it during COVID because you had to figure out how you were going to reach out to the people that you know. Tell us what your go-to piece of advice is. What always gets you sort of back on the horse?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and I haven't always been good at this, I used to be pretty good at reacting to things before I thought about it. I think the biggest thing is to always breathe before you respond to anything, really. That can keep you out of a lot of trouble, is to take a breath. And I think that I was listening to Todd Stottlemyre speak not too long ago. He was a baseball player, and he said the better you get and the more you are successful, the more problems you will actually have. And he said, be happy to have more problems. Yeah. That's because it gives you that means you're in a position where you have more opportunities too. And I think that's an important thing to remember, is to try to make the problem opportunities. And
I love that. It's fantastic.
I mean, I learned a lot when we got completely shut down here for 2 months, 3 months. And I was used to being on an airplane 3 or 4 weekends a month. And the 2 months I was stuck at home, I really liked being at home. And I learned that I'm not going to be on an airplane 3 or 4 times a month anymore. I don't want to do it that way anymore.
It is interesting the things it's taught us, for sure. Overall, 100%. Everybody has different experiences, good and bad, but even the bad ones, it's really taught us a lot about ourselves, because this has gone on longer than anybody expected. So we really had to learn to adapt. And now that we've adapted, it's interesting to see what change will come out of this, like for you. So that's awesome. So Kristi, if somebody wants to get in touch with you after today, tell us how you can do that. I'm going to type it right up in the comments.
My email is ywydressage@gmail.com. Like my last name.
Dressage.
Correct.
Okay.
And if they want to go on the online course, it's ydressageacademy.com. And it's WY, like my last name.
Very good. So I got that in the comments. That's excellent. And do you have anything coming up that you want to share, or anything that you want anybody to know about? Obviously, your academy is going on to get in there. Do you have any other trainings or activities that you want to share with anybody that might be listening?
Well, I'm doing some things for just some GMOs, and I'm the show season has started up, and I will be doing my first show in March in South Carolina, actually.
Excellent. Wow. You'll be in my backyard. Cool.
Exactly. So I think the main thing for people to think of is there are a lot of avenues to be able to, if you feel a little bit trapped, knowledge is the best enemy against fear. learn.
I love that.
Engross yourself in something to learn, and it will push that. There's no room for fear when you're learning.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. Well, Kristi, I can't thank you enough for being with us and sharing all of your valuable knowledge and your energy. I mean, your passion for what you love and your way of just figuring out how to get around, some of the barriers that you've had to endure, even just this year, but all the way through. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. It's been very enlightening. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, guys, as you know, we're broadcasting live today on Facebook and YouTube. We will be reposting on Facebook and YouTube. And we're also going to, as soon as this broadcast is over, we are going to be sharing on LinkedIn the connection to the link to the live broadcast. So if you know anybody that has missed it, or if you want to watch it again, that's certainly an area to do it. My website is going to have it playing as well, ConnieFuchsa.com. And just a little bit about me, I work with entrepreneurs mostly in the real estate space to help them create content out of information that they already know, all the questions that people already ask them, develop strategies, and create a brand that's really recognizable. And be consistent with their content. So if I can help you in any way, you want to have some discussions about those kinds of things, I'd love to help you do that. Kristi's information is in our comments, so reach out to her and tap into some of the knowledge that she has. She is just full of it. So thank you guys so much for being part of the Entrepreneurial Live interview series today. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.